Okay, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yasha'Allah, Kuhuloimla Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakahakudash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us His beautiful truth. And just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and Akwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, to the best of their ability. This is Yachanan Nawaf. I was coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. Obadiah chapter 1 verse 2, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. And I saw this article in Business Insider. America's people shortage is about to get real. Colleges, companies, and cities are unprepared. And so the Lord is breaking this place down, man. And really, when they're talking like this, they're talking about Esau. They're talking about these Edomites, the so-called white race. America's about to tumble off the cliff, or off the edge of a massive demographic cliff. The timing is no coincidence. The U.S. birth rate peaked in 2007 with just over 4.3 million babies born that year. That number has dropped almost every year since, reaching a 30-year low of 3.8 million births in 2017. Last year, the rate was down to 3.6 million. And then you have to factor in as well, all these drug overdoses, and that's the reason why they started to go so hard on, the fentanyl, and because it's a lot of these so-called white people, they're dying off quicker than they're being born. That's the reason why Trump is bringing in so-called white South Africans, and have these incentives where they're offering so-called white women money to have children, and to basically try and put together a family structure again with a husband and wife in a home. But it's far too gone, man. And his shit, it's time for this thing to end for him anyway. And it's just the Lord breaking him down. The kid says, now, those 2007 babies are turning 18, and they prepared to start college and enter the workforce. Their transition to adulthood signals a new reality for universities, employers, and the whole of America's economy. Every year from here on out, at least for the foreseeable future, colleges will face a smaller and smaller pool of prospective students, and companies will see a drop-off in the number of potential workers. And of course, you done got rid of, Northern Kingdom. A lot of these farms are going under right now. So Esau, he's been making moves, and the scripture talks about, let me see if, because he's not making wise moves. He's just not, he's making real rash moves. That's why scripture talks about, being patient, not moving in haste, This is Jeremiah 49:7. It says concerning Edom. That's the biblical name for the so-called white man. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Right? Because they're doing dumb shit. Before, Esau, he would, at least be making somewhat of some wise moves, even though on the left-hand side, because he's wicked as hell. But, they made better moves back in the days as far as, to keep their little shit going. But we also know that the Lord, he sets a boundary for nations, man. And it's just that time that this nation is just about to, fall off, man, and eventually go into captivity. And America's going to be destroyed anyway, so they ain't got to worry about no American workers. When that thermonuclear fire come through, and you ain't gonna have to worry about no universities, no damn employers, or the American economy and all this other silly shit. Okay, so it says, before long, industries that are already grappling with worker shortages, such as healthcare and agriculture, could reach a point of crisis. A report by the labor market analytic firm Lightcast found that the joint forces of baby boomers retiring and shrinking demographics will create a deficit of 6 million workers by 2032. And we're praying we're not here by that, That shit'd be a wrap, man. Ain't no damn 2032 in our minds. That also means there will be fewer people contributing to Social Security while the number of retirees grow. While elected leaders puzzle over strategies to boost births, employers and higher education institutions are already scrambling to bridge the gap. Well, see, Esau, he done made it so hard for a person, even, people that have families, man. People that's just, with children, especially among so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. There's nothing planned about it. It's just, a night of drinks, maybe, some drugs or some damn blunts being smoked, and, nigga hit it raw, and she kept the baby, and got her little Section 8 food stamps. There's not nothing really seriously planned like that. Now, Esau, they're a little bit, or used to be, I'm sure some of them still are, used to be a little bit better about planning having a family, But even they've gotten to a point of the women have been out in the workforce and want these careers and shit, and those careers being ended, they get around 40, that's when they want to, all of a sudden have a damn baby. But they're not having a whole bunch of children like that. Now, these stay at home little so-called white women, that's them the ones you might see out at Walmart with 4 or 5 kids, 6 kids. The husband make a pretty decent living, so he's able to do it. And that's another thing too. The households are all out of whack. Esau has set the woman up over the man, and that's scriptural too. When the scripture talks about how the Lord would do a new thing in the earth where a woman will compass a man. So a woman, she's out here, got a nice little 6-figure job. She's making good money. She's able to buy her own car, her own home, and a lot of that shit, it just done crushed the family unit, man. That's Esau though. This man has really crushed the family unit. Okay, but it says Nathan Craw, a Carleton College economics professor, who is widely credited for coining the term demographic cliff, says the problem will need to be attacked from multiple angles at once. It won't be solved by one silver bullet. And it's not going to be solved because the Lord don't want it to be solved. Incentivizing Americans to have more kids has become a popular political talking point, particularly on the right. That's on the right. That's Esau, the MAGAs, man. The Make America Great Again motherfuckers. As part of Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, parents will now receive a $1,000 investment account for every new baby they have between 2024 and 2028. I mean, that's not enough to pull people in. People not, they're not falling for that. Population decline isn't a uniquely American problem. Nope, it's not, because it's all these Edomites countries. According to a report from the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs, fertility levels below 2 births per woman are becoming the global norm, meaning that societies around the world are falling short of the required 2.1 births per woman to replace the population. The trend is especially pronounced in high-income countries where women are more likely to have access to birth control. See? Higher education and professional opportunities. That's throwing shit off. Let me get a quick script on that real quick. Because again, hey, this man, he professes to be so wise, but he do the dumbest shit. He done this to himself, but I mean, of course the Lord did, but the Lord used him to do it to himself. And then it's also, they're them reaping what they've sown. They try to kill off Jake so damn much. They've caused a lot of deaths amongst our people, man. Especially with the abortion. They set our people up, our women up. They're going to have a damn abortion per weekend. Our women, if the numbers are right, which they say 20 million, but it's probably 30 or 40 million. So-called black, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American children, mainly black, have been killed, man, from, at the hands of the nigger woman. But this is Isaiah 5:20. It says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. So this man has switched everything upside down. The women are not supposed to be out in the workforce like that. That's where a lot of adultery come from. That actually causes a lot of domestic violence and a lot of women being deleted as of late. Them being able to go to that damn job and talking about like they got a work husband. She's on lunch break with this guy getting busy with him. And it's not supposed to be that way, man. These women are supposed to be at home rearing up children. They're supposed to be in silence and not usurping authority over the man. That's scriptural, man. Well, let's see what else they got in here. Where's we at? Let me start back here. It says the trend especially pronounced in high-income countries where women are more likely to have access to birth control, higher education, and professional opportunities, all of which are linked to delayed childbirth. which in turn generally leads to fewer total kids. But women in many low and middle income countries are also having smaller families, even in places where marriages is nearly universal and childbirth isn't delayed, such as India. They got a nice little number too. With no single clear-cut cause, the birth rate decline is a problem without simple solutions. Well, the clear-cut cause is Esau, the so-called white man being in power. That's your cause. I don't believe there are any policy levers, at least that we know of, that can make a big difference here, says Wafa Orman, a labor economist at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Social incentives like baby bonuses and parental leave help, Oman says, but not enough to flip the downward trajectory of new births. No, because people not, hey, look, these women don't want nothing to do with having no goddamn babies. First off, not these days. Not these days. They'll tell you straight up they prefer to have a dog. How many women you see with a damn dog? They'll have a dog. They'll have a cat. You know, but these younger women, they don't want nothing to do with them. They not responsible. They're not mothers. They're not mother material. That's the reason why you're seeing so much heinous shit going on with a lot of these mothers that have children, man. They're depressed. They don't have no man, sticking it out with them because they crazy as all hell. Esau just done set it up for them to lose, man. And people, men are catching on. They don't want nothing to do with that. They ain't trying to be caught up with no woman, man, going back and forth to court and trying to see their kids and paying child support. That shit is a hassle, man. So a lot of stuff plays in part, but mainly, like I said, it's the Lord, man. He's that Obadiah chapter 1 verse 2, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. The Lord is breaking the asses down because you've sown so much in death. The so-called white race, man, has been the number one killer on the planet, man, and he's reaping what he's sown. Okay, it says that leaves the country's nearly 4,000 degree granting colleges and universities, the institutions most immediately affected by the demographic drop-off, to come up with their own strategies for survival. For some, the challenge will be insurmountable because these colleges, man, they make a lot of money, man. It's a business. Instead of them just educating the people, men for free, so to speak, and where the shit will actually build and a man can make a decent living, and then the woman can just be at home taking care of children. But this greedy ass man, he wants the woman out in the workforce so he can collect taxes off her ass. Okay, but it says parts of the U.S. are already feeling the pain because of out migrations and lower fertility. The northeast quadrant of the country has been in this sort of decline for a while now. 11 of the 31 degree granting colleges and universities that shut down in 2024 were in the northeast. Yeah, a lot of this shit closing down. A lot of businesses are shuttering, man. It's a lot of windows being boarded up on every level. It says according to federal data analyzed by the State Higher Education Executive Officers Association, and these people, they study everything. And this is Esau, but it's not going to work this time. They research every damn thing, but all that smartness, you're so goddamn smart, you're now smart as yourself. The Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia predicts that as many as 80 more schools could close by 2029. See, all these businesses closing, all these plants closing, all these, you know what I'm saying? Hundreds of business, like we're talking about big businesses, man, that employ thousands and thousands of people, man, have been shuttering, man. It says when a school shuts down, it derails its students' lives. One recent study found that less than half of students, 47% displaced by college closures, went on to re-enroll in another post-secondary institution. Of those that did re-enroll, less than 37% stuck it out long enough to earn a degree. Even when schools manage to survive, the demographic cliff may leave them ill-equipped to serve all students. Some smaller rural campuses are already seeing really diminished program offerings, which is that means already underserved communities end up with even fewer post-secondary options, which makes the members of those communities a lot less likely to pursue higher education, and which in turn diminishes job prospects. The Georgetown University Center of Education and the Workforce Projects that By 2031, 72% of U.S. jobs will require some form of post-secondary education or training. Well, they got AI for that shit. For small town America, college closures can mean the loss of vital economic lifeline. In an instant, employers lose precious talent, recruitment pipelines, local businesses lose customers, and critical public services are wrung dry. The Chronicle of Higher Education reported that when Wells College shut its doors to its 350 students last spring, the upstate New York village of Aurora, home to just 255 non-student residents, was suddenly left without a quarter of its volunteer firefighters and $200,000 tab to continue running its water treatment plant, which the college had been operating for more than a century. Yeah, the Lord's shutting down all that shit, man. Though students in rural communities pay a particularly steep toll, the economic aftershocks are significant across the board. According to the 2024 implant analysis, each college closure leads to an average loss of 265 jobs, $14 million in labor income, $21 million in GPT, and $32 million in overall economic activity. Gross sums it up plainly. Some parts of the country are going to face some really stiff challenges. Beyond academia, the Democratic cliff will strain the entire U.S. economy. In a new report, the Congressional Budget projects that by 2033, deaths will begin to outpace births. It's already doing that, culminating in a smaller and older skewing population. This pattern of demographic shrinkage leads to a shrunken labor force, which means less economic growth over time. Japan's post-war trajectories gave a prime and ominous example of how it might play out in the U.S. And we already know the U.S. bombed the shit out of their asses and pretty much got them in that position. So Esau just got a lot to pay for, man. Okay, so we don't need to really go no further into it because there's quite a bit more to it. But you get the gist of the article. Let me see if they got a summary. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much about it. Let's see some of these comments real quick, and I'll grab one more script or two. Will be out. Okay, so this person says the original American Indians is the majority and always has been the majority. Judgment is why you are experiencing a negative birth rate. All praises. Yeah, Lee. So some people know what's good, man. This could be an let me see, Israelite. Let me see, daughters of the great what? Anyway, it don't matter. Person says, here's what Democratic globalists don't understand. We are not against immigration, but immigration has to serve the American people. You just don't get to come across the border and go where you want to go. You apply for a job and say Iowa, and if there's no, oh man, get the fuck out of here with all that. It's Slovakia. It says corporate America's greed did this. A recent Rand Corporation study found that between 1975 and 2018, nearly $80 trillion in wealth was redistributed from bottom 90% of Americans to the top 1%. Yeah, that's Esau, man. Greedy and motherfucker. Somebody says no one can afford kids in America, at least not the working class. Yeah, man. Hey, people struggle. Shit. They just motherfuckers working 2, 3. How they gonna even, they working 2, 3 jobs just to stay afloat themselves. Well, dang, come on, people. It's not what it used to be, man, for these people. Yeah, corporate greed is killing a lot of bloodline. Yeah. This person says it's better to be underpopulated than overpopulated. Yeah, real dumbass. The billionaires know they're pricing people out of having families, so what's their end game? Well, their end game is to really perpetually enslave your ass with that microchip. First off, causing all this disruption, man. There's a lot of disruption that's going on. Yeah, okay. Here's another one. Great. Too many people having kids that they can't provide for. Yeah, it's a lot of that going on just to get free money. A lot of that going on. It's too expensive to raise children. Wages are too high, causing higher education costs. The degrees are basically worthless in a new modern AI-driven world. Yeah. All that good stuff. Somebody says we're overpopulated, and that's not true. Esau telling you that. You know, he's telling you that there's too many people on the planet with all this land. All this land, you know, because you can get on a highway and travel from, say, Michigan, where I'm at here, all the way out to California. You ain't going to see nothing but a bunch of goddamn trees on them highways, man. There's a lot of land in between these big-ass cities, man. But Esau, the so-called white man, he wants to Tower of Babel your ass and bunch you up into these little, these concrete jungles of his. And because there's plenty of land for everybody to have them, so, you know, a few plots of, you know, a couple of acres, being able to plant their own. See, that would be what a real, you know, leader would do. You know, set the people up where they can survive, you know what I'm saying, on their own. Have a barter system. You know, a person may grow carrots, this person may grow bananas, this, you know, and just do trade in that type of way. But see, you got these greedy ass Edomites that just want to own everything, including the people. And that's where they're going to come down the pipe with that Revelation 13:16, because they want to chip your ass and really be in control of you, turn you into a perpetual slave. Well, let me just grab this one more in the Apocrypha. And it's a beautiful thing, because this right here just shows you just how close we are to getting the hell out of here. Fuck Esau. This shit need to cave. Ecclesiasticus 25:7. There be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And that's what we're witnessing, the fall of our enemies. Because you can't enjoy no children here. How could you possibly enjoy your kids when you know Esau got them for 8 hours of the day? You working 8 hours a day. You may have to work another 8 hours if you got a secondary job. All you can do is just get home. You rushing to get them from the daycare and all this other shit. You get home, you starting that day over again. You know, you get them something to eat, which is probably some processed shit from a drive-through window. And you doing that shit over and over and over again, and people don't, you know, they prefer not to even deal with it. Just is what it is. So, you know, Esau, he's whooping his own ass. But that's a beautiful thing, though. So I'm gonna end out there, man. I pray that the lesson was edifying. Kwame Inshallah in the Bible bar.